Previously.
1, 2, 3.
X-Rated, the X-Men Animated Review Show.
Welcome to X-Rated, the X-Men Animated Review Show Trade War Special, where we will review We Stand on Guard from 2015. Written by Brian K. Vaughan with art by Steve Skroce. I think that's how you pronounce that. You might know better than I, Ryan.
I've always just called them that. I
Skroce.
actually looked it up on Wikipedia to see, they have like the how to pronounce
Yeah.
it, and it had like a bunch of the weird symbols. I'm like, nope, it's just gross. That's fine.
Okay, we'll go with that. And colors by Matt Hollingsworth. And who are we? Well, we are your ambassadors for this evening. We have your Knuckle host, Davan from Canada, and we have the Jaboican, Ryan from the USA. Now, what are we doing here? Well, we're gonna show how things used to be between our peoples before. Well, you know what? Since we're representing our two peoples here tonight as ambassadors, I'm just gonna say it. My God, man, what have you done?
Oh my God, man! It was funny because I went to read this book again just to refresh myself on it.
It's
And I'm
scary
like,
now, isn't it?
yeah, it's like, well, like all the stuff that we used to joke about in the grade school, right? And it's just like it's all just happening.
Wait, is that what you guys joke about in grade school?
Well, just like yeah, absolutely. Well, no, like
we should conquer
we're
Canada.
well, and that's it. Where it's we'll go to war with Canada. They'll have their Mounties, and we'll have and they'll have like a penguin army, and we'll go after them with our beer.
We do the same thing. I joke.
Mhm.
I mean, sort of, because it's more like you just imagine how you're gonna lose.
Yep.
From our side, So that's like this thing is kind of accurate in a lot of ways. I mean, it's just like you guys attack us with giant robots. We'd run further and further north, and then we poison our water, and you guys go away. That's pretty much how it would probably go.
Yeah. Well, and like what I know we're getting into the story.
Oh yeah, I know. I just blew the whole story, but
yeah, I know it's spoiler alert. But
spoiler alert.
one of the things I love that Vaughn did was it's a lot of the subtle panels that kind of show what's going on in the rest of the world, and see that this is such a enclosed little battle, but like things aren't. It's not like some of those weird science fiction movies, right? Where it's like the United States decides to take over Canada, and it's like everybody's for it. Like they're always showing like they're showing tons of like panels of fights and arguments where it's like there's riots in the streets of the United States because they're all against it. So it's which makes it scarier and also probably more realistic. But like because that's exactly what it is. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, I think we always assume up here that if like your country wanted to attack Canada, it would cause a civil war in your country first. I mean,
Yes.
I think that's the assumption.
Yeah, it's a good assumption.
We're running on that. If there's not that, then we're in big trouble.
Yeah, but it's a really good assumption though because it would be the case. I mean, like look at like we're about like down here we're about to go to civil war. Just for us, getting involved, in like Israel or like Russia or the Ukraine and stuff like that. Can you imagine if like we decided, hey, if that orange dump truck decides that he wants to attack Canada? Fuck, man, the entire country would just be like, nope, that's it.
Like, yeah, like surely most of your country likes Canada more than that orange dump truck. I would hope, but
Yeah, who knows?
Who knows?
I said that twice, and he's been elected twice. So what do I know?
So what do we all know? It's crazy times we're living in, but that's why we're talking about this. I mean, it is kind of funny. I did enjoy this a little more this time than when it came out, which is when I got these comics.
Yeah, same.
Maybe it's because of the times we're living in. I don't know. but I don't know. Maybe I'm getting older and I enjoyed some of the nostalgia a bit more. There is a bit of like there are a few times where it's like it seems obviously it's like a Canadian thing written by an American, which is funny because like if I were to make a movie recommendation based on what we're talking about here, it would be Canadian Bacon, which is another like Canadian thing written by an American, which is a great movie written by Michael Moore. And it's funny he hires all Canadian actors to play all the like, Canada hating Americans in that movie. It's pretty hilarious.
I love that movie.
Like it's just like watching like these Canadian actors like mispronounce Canuck. Just like those freaking Canucks. They're like it's pretty funny.
Well, it's funny because I guess that's actually very similar to this because you
It
got
is.
Vaughn who hires Steve Scrose, who is a Canadian artist.
Yeah. No, the nods are good. Like it's not that bad. I remembered it being more jarring last time. Like I remember when it came out, I thinking that it felt kind of like Canadian references written by an American because they were kind of like the obvious ones. But there wasn't as much as that as I remembered. I mean, there's like the Littlest Hobo and the CBC, but I really enjoyed the CBC nod in this actually, where it's like it's the CBC free radio that's like underground, and like the guy has it in his sunglasses where like the CBC logo just comes up in the glasses.
Yeah, they
that was pretty cool.
I wonder if this is a world that Vaughn will come back to at some point.
It felt like it should have been longer.
Yeah, I think so too.
But now it's like maybe you wouldn't want to touch it, or maybe it's a good time to go back in.
Well, I don't know if you saw like the this book jumped up. It's the number one.
That's why I decided to do this.
Yeah, that's so funny.
I was just like, I mean, I had it sitting around, and I wanted to go back and read it anyway. And I was like, you know what?
I
might want to hear a review of it now.
Yeah, it probably probably just like you. I mean, I haven't read it since I got it when it came out, and that's the last I touched it.
Yeah, but it's this one you don't really think about as much. But then I'm like, oh yeah, that kind of makes a lot of sense now. But the art is fantastic. I gotta say, like Steve
it's so good.
It is. Like, look at that. My poor little Canadian heart, just like that's me. That little boy, 6-year-old me.
He's actually the reason I got the book. I get a lot of Steve Scrose stuff. Well, he did the art on the first ongoing Gambit series that
that one from the 90s.
Yeah. It was Fabian Nicieza and him.
Yeah.
And he did most of the art all the way through like the first like 20 issues.
That was a cool series, as I remember. I don't have any of it now, but I did.
I've actually went back and reread it because they have like the trades they released of like and it basically has the full series. And it's actually went back and reread it, and it actually holds up. I was like, man, this is like the coolest game. And game is my favorite, so I'm a little biased, but like to me, that was like the coolest he ever was.
It's like that first cover had the shiny metal pink, right? Did it not? Like it had like the.
Well, there was the first issue. There was like it was like five different covers for the first issue.
Oh well, there you go.
Well, it was all the cards, right? Because there's a king cover, a queen, a jack, and
the cards.
It was such a brilliant idea.
Yeah, that was good stuff.
Yeah. All right.
But this series, I got it because of Vaughn, because I was big. Like Why the Last Man's one of my favorite books.
So good.
And I loved Runaways. So
yeah, me too.
Yeah, so I was like, Brian K. Vaughan's writing a Canada book. I guess I have to buy it.
Well, it's funny, and Runaways talk about another book where it's all Canadians. Because Adrian,
the artists.
The artists, yeah.
Like the characters, I was like, what? No, they're from California. I was like,
even the inker was Canadian.
And like in his artist for Saga, Fiona Staples is Canadian.
Yep.
He generally works with Canadians. True. I think he lives in Canada. I think he lives in Vancouver.
I think he does too, yeah.
Which, Vancouver, we basically consider Canada. So.
Yeah. Well, Vancouver, they're just Hollywood North, right?
Yeah, it's Hollywood North. But so basically, if we want to just kind of summarize the book in a little more detail here for a second, we have the 2-4 out in the Northwest Territory wilderness, trying to escape the evil American robots. Basically, it starts off where like the White House gets bombed, and they never make it perfectly clear who bombs the White House. The Canadians say it was false flag operation, and the Americans bombed themselves so they could come up and steal Canadian water and other resources and whatnot. They strip mined Canada to build all these giant robots. And like little robot dogs. It's like, and then one of the Canadians at one point says he's like, the thing about the American industrial complex is they build some badass shit. True enough. Give him that one.
Well, one of them. I mean, you have this. It's like a kaiju-sized Star Wars machines, basically.
Oh yeah, they're pretty nuts. Whoops. I mean, you can see some in the background there a little bit, but like in this, the lady that they just call the American, super evil, and she says she's from Ottawa, but you know, it's hard to tell if she's telling the truth or not. Like, what was your take? Well, I guess I'm rushing ahead. So the 2-4 are out there, and it keeps the main character is Amber, and they show flashbacks of her as a kid and stuff when the war started. And she's a cool character, and like her brother's gets taken at one point. Well, he has to like sacrifice himself to save her, and he becomes like the CBC glasses guy, you know, so doing the underground radio. But it's funny when they show the map of all the red is where like the Americans have taken over Canada. Cape Breton here in Nova Scotia still not red, and PEI still not red. So they, you know, the islands held out for a while, but then like later, a couple of books later or issues later, PEI is like a penal colony where they're all just like growing potatoes, which is what they would be doing on PEI.
What I liked about the each issue starting with the flashback of like them as kids was really cool because it moved the story along really well. But like you could have actually taken all those flashbacks and put them into one issue, and it still would have made sense.
Yeah, and it built her character well because it's a quick read. These 6 issues are a pretty quick read. There's a lot of action and quips, which is good.
It did make a really good movie.
Oh yeah, these 6 issues probably isn't even enough material for a movie. Like they would have to like expand on it. I think. It's all pretty quick what happens here. I mean, I guess you could, but add more dialogue and stuff. And then, you know, and you just have a bunch of ragtag Canadians in this 2-4, and you have got this like kind of famous Canadian comedian actor, Les Lepage. He's from Quebec. Les Lepage. So the American recognizes him, so wants to make him a target because figures he could be a rallying cry for Canadians. And you know that's what they do with him. Like he kind of has the big speech to all the Canadian people.
It was funny because I wish that they would have done that earlier in the series because I don't think she even says that until like the 5th issue.
No, it's near the end. Yeah.
Yeah, where it's like, and don't get me wrong, that made sense to me. Like to me, when you know they kept talking about how he was this famous or even pseudo famous comedian or whatever, I was like, oh, that'd be a great rally. But I was like, he should have became a target very early on, because it felt like it still worked for what they did with it, but I think it would have had a bigger impact for the reader if that would have been something at the beginning, and like he is a target, but it still works out at the end.
I think they planned it that way. I think you're right, but I think they planned it that way. I think the joke was that because he was a famous Canadian, none of the Americans knew who he was. She just happened to.
Because she's Canadian, right? Yeah.
Yeah, because she's Canadian. Yeah, that confirms it.
Yeah.
She's totally from Ottawa.
Yep.
So you know what? I think that the Canadian Defense Minister might have blew up the White House. I was uncertain. But that kind of makes me think she was telling the truth.
I said I was going to ask you about that and see what you thought because
I was
after
on the
reading
other
it,
side until this moment.
I was on
Mm.
the other side the first time I read it. This
Yeah.
time I was, which is funny because this time I read it and I'm like, oh wait, I think he actually did it.
I
Not,
think he did it too.
yeah, it's well, especially when
Which is
you,
horrible end game. Like that what was he thinking? Our defense, I mean, must have been a conservative.
yeah, well, so we're all dealing with that issue right now. So
Well, it comes around every so often, I guess. But yeah, so they've been hoarding weapons, the 2-4, and they managed to somehow get hold of one of these giant robots. It's funny they call these like lake draining. So the Americans have these giant lake draining machines, in the kind of engineer Canadian fella, indigenous fella. I can't remember his name. Oh, Highway they call him.
yeah, he's on with the dog, right?
He calls them the hosers.
Yeah.
What?
Is he the one with the dog? I'm really bad at all.
Was the dog his or was the dog? No, the dog was the guy with the toque, wasn't it?
Yeah,
The guy with the beard and the toque.
Yeah, where his husband died or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, he's from New Brunswick, so a fellow Atlantic Canadian. Yeah, and he's not even a dog. It's like a coy wolf.
Yes.
Yeah, which the coy wolves are. There's a lot of coy wolves running around now, so that's legit. Those half coyote, half wolves. You probably have them in the States too. I mean, they're everywhere.
Yeah. They've made it over the border.
Oh yeah.
Or they've done it themselves, and I guess that's nature.
They probably just did it themselves.
Yeah.
But so Amber ends up meeting up with the 2-4, and then the 2-4's leader gets taken hostage and interrogated by the American, and that is horrific. Issue 3 is horrific and horrifying and disgusting.
Yeah.
And like regardless if I think we agree that Canada probably bombed the White House in this, they still just make the Americans the bad guys. Like they just make them so awful.
But it's such a believable villainy, right? Like nothing about what you read in this story would shock me if this was actually happening, right? Like none of this surprises me.
Except for the outright kind of like kaiju stuff, I think you're exactly right. Because like this American character doesn't think she's doing anything because it's all in her head. The torture's all in the Canadian's head. I mean, they're still just burning her alive constantly, and then it gets real gross. And we're not even going to say her plan B, but it gets real bad. So she gives up the information.
Yeah. But it's literally it's mental waterboarding, right? Because like that wasn't. That's what it is. Like, oh, they're not really drowning. We're not really drowning them. I was like, well, fuck you, man. This is ridiculous. But and that's what it is. I mean, it just because there's like you said, like the American, she doesn't think she's doing anything wrong at all. No.
Then she says like her parents left Canada because Canada wasn't what it used to be, and now it's just all about hoarding its resources and whatnot. So like we've kind of always been about hoarding our resources. That's not new. That's not new. That's pretty much always been it. I mean, we like to sell them to you guys mostly, but now we're in a trade war, so what can you do? But there's no giant robots yet. So now, because they have the information from what was her name? Kadati, was she the leader? Kadati was the leader, right? No, Kadati was the person who ends up jumping in the giant robot.
Yes.
Yeah. I forget the leader's name.
I don't know. Yeah.
I have it. I have it too, but these covers are so good. Like I love this one too, where the 2-4 are all just walking. It looks like a old war movie from like the 70s or something.
Yeah, it was.
It would have made a great movie in the 70s too. It really should get picked up for a quick little movie or mini series or something. Just because of the times, it would probably do really well.
It probably would. Well,
it'd be expensive to make, I guess, with all the giant killer robots everywhere.
Yeah, I think you're right. Well, you know what though? I think it would. especially like even if you look at like the thing like the streaming services and stuff like that. Like, why wouldn't you put something like this on Netflix or Max or or
Mm.
Amazon Video or something like that? Because yeah, they dump a lot of budget into some pretty shitty stuff. This would be pretty good. Well, and like
Yeah,
and Vaughn has a
it
strong
would be
name in
good.
Hollywood too. Like Vaughn is a very well respected writer.
True. Why the Last Man actually got made into a show, didn't it? Like,
Yeah,
it got rumored forever, but didn't that actually happen? I think I didn't see it, or maybe it never got made.
I
There
thought
was
maybe
rumors for like 20 years that it was going to be.
it happened, but
I thought maybe it
I
happened
know it
too.
got
Maybe it wasn't
canceled.
very good. Oh, it got
Yeah,
canceled.
because it was on FX, I think,
Uh,
wasn't it?
I don't think I ever saw it, but I didn't hear good things, and I didn't want it to ruin it for me because it's one of my favorite books.
No, I didn't. I didn't see it either.
Uh,
If it happened.
if it happened, yeah, if it happened.
Oh no, okay, it did. Yeah,
It did,
it only
eh?
it only went one season.
Okay. Well, you can't tell that story in one season, so it obviously didn't complete the story.
No, it's
And how did they do the monkey? Is it a CGI monkey, ampersand? Like, he's one of the best parts of that story.
That's true. Oh, you know what? I do remember. I think I watched the first episode. I don't think I made it past that.
Oh,
But I think
that's
it probably only went because I think it was on FX or something. So it's probably only like 6 episodes long.
Yeah.
But so that would have been 2000. No, it would have
Not
been.
that long ago. It took a long time for them to finally make it.
Yeah, it was a shitty network too. I think if that was a streaming one, I think it would have done better.
Well, a little too early, maybe. Maybe they should have waited a little longer.
Yeah,
But
that's true.
But this one, so then the 2-4 kind of gotta go all in, and they knock all the arsenic from the mountain into the lake, which was like the last one, I guess. The rest of them been drained already, so that's not good.
Yeah.
Like, what are people drinking? And they keep showing shots of the U.S. and it's still all like dead and dry, except for this one little patch where like the senator's sitting. He's got this nice little green park, and it's just wasteland all around it.
So ridiculous.
What does the character say? He's just like, I'm not going to try to explain climate change to an American because you guys haven't figured out the metric system yet.
Right. I mean, it's not an incorrect thought.
It's probably better that this was written by an American, actually, because it's mostly just like Canadian characters trash talking Americans.
Yeah,
it'd probably come off like not so nice if a Canadian wrote it. So, good job, Brian K. Bone. This is a fun story. What's your takeaway on this one, Ryan?
I really enjoy it. What's funny is obviously I mentioned earlier, like I read it a long time ago when it first came out, and reading it again, I think it actually hits harder, which isn't necessarily a good thing. Because
it's not a good thing
look,
for either of us.
Yeah, right. So it's not a good thing. But I would recommend anybody who is even remotely up to date on the current climate of both of our countries, should read this book because like it's going to be like watching an episode of The Simpsons, and that just tells the future all the time, right? Because like that's where we are.
Oh God, I hope not. But no, you're right. And apparently people are, I think, if it's like #1 on Amazon.
Yeah.
So I think people who obviously hadn't read it before, because you and I didn't have to buy it on Amazon. We had it already.
Yeah. So, we kicked it old school.
Plus, I think we're boycotting Amazon right now up here.
Yeah, I don't know. Every day it's a different boycott. I just, you know what? I'm broke, so I'm boycotting everything.
Me too.
I have no fucking money.
Yep, that's where we're all gonna be for a while, I think.
Yep.
Oh man, but thanks for joining me, man. It was, the good thing is, this is the real relationship between our two peoples, despite all the nonsense that the rich people get us into. We just love each other over here in North America.
That's how it should be.
Yeah, man.
We can meet over a cup of Tim Hortons and life will be good.
I'm not going to Tim Hortons.
Also,
Tim Hortons is Brazilian.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, never mind then.
It is now, anyway. But
Screw those
it's just
Brazilian
not very
people.
good. It's not as good as it used to be. And speaking of things
No,
not
it's
as
not.
good as it used to be, like in this book, where to prove, like when he says to the tour, did you notice in the holographic world that things didn't taste right? Like, what did she get to taste other than the gasoline they kept dunking her in? Like
her melting skin.
Yeah, and her melting skin. Like so that line didn't really make a lot of sense to me. Unless she was in there like a long time and eating fake food, but we don't see any of that.
Well, I was gonna say too is that that might be one of my only critiques is that I feel there were pages that were cut out.
It does feel like that. Like it feels like it's a lot in a little. Like it's like you read it. It's 6 issues, but you could probably sit down and read this in like half an hour.
Yeah, I would say half an hour. I think a half an hour, and now you're reading. You're actually reading it and paying attention too. Yeah, it is super quick,
but good. But you're right. It's just like it all just happens. It's just like you meet everybody, and then they just end it all.
Yeah.
Like,
that's when they all start dying.
Yeah, well, there's some pretty gruesome stuff. For
Yeah,
sure.
I
was trying to read it, and my 4-year-old was just like, "What happens on the next page?" And I look, I'm just like, "Nothing happens on the next page."
It's just talking heads, honey. It's fine.
It's just like I think it was the page where they all get cut in half by lasers.
Yeah, there's the lasers, or like one guy opens a door and his head blows up.
Oh, that was the worst. He was the guy. What? Okay, so one question before we go: what do you think about Superman as a motherfucking Canadian?
I think it. Well, you know, he has to be, right, because no American would possibly be as kind as Superman. Like he is from.
It's an interesting take.
He is from Smallville, fucking, Nova
Saskatchewan.
Scotia. You know, so,
Yeah,
right?
Smallville, Nova Scotia. Smallville Cove. Yeah.
And that's why his house is the Fortress of Solitude.
But as soon as that buddy, the second guy says that, they blow his head off instantly.
Yep.
It's just like Superman's Canadian.
which I did laugh at a little bit because like it was.
I did too.
Well, because it was just like it was like a funny little gag like going through the issues, and I'm like, oh man, they just killed both those guys.
And he's got the like Superman kind of thing, but it's the maple leaf in the center on the t-shirt. That was pretty funny. Everybody, like, they made sure to kill both people in the book that say Superman is Canadian.
Yes, they do.
So Brian came on clearly does not agree with that sentiment.
Yes, he does not.
It's pretty funny. But yeah, it's a great book. Check it out, everybody. You have any parting words for the people, Ryan?
No, thanks for having me on. It was actually really nice to read this again. It's been almost 10 years, I think.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, it's been. All right, man. Well, let's all be friends as always, right?
We'll keep going.
Yeah, man. Later, everybody.
All right. Thanks, brother.
Later.